Hello Year 6, this is your vocabulary lesson for the 3rd of March, which is next Wednesday. So we're going to be looking at how people have used language to convey a feeling or a certain characteristic. So this is a brief extract from The Hound of the Baskervilles. My mind paralysed by the dreadful shape which had sprung out upon us from the shadows of the fog. A hound it was, an enormous coal-black hound, but not such a hound as mortal eyes have ever seen. Fire burst from its open mouth, its eyes glowed with a smouldering glare, its muzzle and hackles were outlined in flickering flame. Now, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had a bit of a way with words. I would like you to describe the hound's appearance. How would that make you feel if you suddenly saw this dreadful shape which sprung out upon us? It is quite old-fashioned language, but what pictures does that conjure up in your mind's eye? So pause the video here and think about, you can draw it, you can act it out, don't mind what you do. Our focus words this week are curious, sinister, eerie, intimidating, venomous, vengeful, deceitful, malicious, ominous. Pause the video for a few moments. Have a think about these words. How would you use them? How would you use eerie? What do we associate that word with? Think back to Skellig and see if you can work out how you would use eerie if you were describing possibly where Skellig was living. What about deceitful? What sort of behaviour would you expect if somebody was deceitful? How would you describe a sinister environment? What would it be about the environment if it was sinister? How about if somebody was intimidating? What does that mean? Why did I say it slightly differently? Have a think about that. Curious, you know that's one of my favourite words. What do we mean by it? Vengeful. Now that's a word you don't often hear, but you would have heard it in Romeo and Juliet, and it would have been one particular character. I wonder if you can think who I mean. Jot it down in your exercise book. Who was vengeful? Malicious. It's a horrible sounding word, and it's a horrible word if somebody is malicious. So what does it mean? And the last one is ominous. There was an ominous silence, and it descended all around us. How would I be feeling if I was witness to an ominous silence? And what does it actually mean? So pause the video, see if you can answer those questions. Go back if you get stuck before we go on to actually the definitions that will be there to help you. But I want you to have a go first. Remember, we're trying to build up your vocabulary so you can use this language in your writing. So I hope you worked out what I was thinking about when I said eerie. I was thinking of when Skellig is in the attic. And eerie can be used in several ways. And what about intimidating? Have you ever felt intimidated? I really hope you haven't, but you might have. I feel intimidated sometimes if there are lots of people around, which I know doesn't happen very often now, but I don't like it. It just makes me feel a little bit on edge, you know, if you're in that sort of crush of people. So we've got curious, something unusual or difficult to understand. Sinister, something that seems evil or harmful. Intimidating, something that is alarming and makes you feel frightened or makes you lose confidence. It can be partly making you feel uneasy if you're intimidated, but it is a very strong word. Eerie, something that seems strange and frightening and makes you feel nervous or on edge. Venomous, someone who is venomous is bitter and full of anger and may be nasty. Think of the root word and think of what creature that root word is often used with. You can send me a message and tell me what you think it is and why you think that venomous is then used to describe somebody who is bitter and full of anger. Vengeful, someone who wants to get revenge on someone and is behaving badly. Think about the character in Romeo and Juliet. I wonder if you've guessed. Deceitful, someone behaving in a dishonest way by making other people believe something that isn't true. Malicious, someone who means to be hurtful and cause harm. And ominous, something worrying because it makes you think something bad is going to happen. So, can you act out some of these words? Can you think of a character who is curious, or is sinister, or is intimidating, or venomous, or vengeful, or deceitful? I was thinking of someone who, in a very famous book, I wonder if you can work out what I'm thinking about, was a very intimidating character, just from the way in the films, the way he stood, his facial expressions, and in fact he wasn't as intimidating as we thought at the beginning, as at the end he was not as intimidating, if that makes sense. But in the beginning and in the early books of this series of books, which are very big books, are you with me yet? Yes, I'm thinking of Harry Potter. But who was intimidating? Wasn't thinking of Dumbledore, because I don't think Dumbledore was intimidating. I was thinking of Snape, because he came across as very intimidating at the beginning. He also could be venomous. Now, think if you can work out why have I used that word for Snape. So, how, if I said to you, I want you to model your facial expressions to being curious, what would you do? Try it now. Would you have wide eyes, looking about? Would you be saying, I wonder what that is? How could you model that as a character? How would the character's facial expressions be if they were being deceitful? What is it about that that would give you a clue to the character? If you're dishonest sometimes, it might be something as small as, well, relatively small, as taking the last biscuit, or putting the drawing pins in the toothpaste, which I know I've shared with you before. When you are not telling the truth, what does your body sometimes do? Have a think. I think some of us, if we're not telling the truth, we go red, or the colour drains from your face, which is quite obvious, because suddenly you realise you've done the wrong thing and your body's reacting. Where would your shoulders be if you were lying or being deceitful? Would you be in a very relaxed pose? You can't see me at the moment because I'm just on audio, but I'm trying to do a relaxed pose and my shoulders are down and my head is up. But if I was being deceitful, I think I would have a bit of tension in my shoulders, and my shoulders might be up a bit and my whole body be held a little bit more stiffly. So just think about that. Think about how these words describe characters. Play around with them. See what you can do with them. Draw a picture of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's dog and see what you can come up with. Enjoy playing with the words this week.